Hello and welcome to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
Yep, it is. And this is episode 57. This is our third time to do the entry, but the
Making a
intro.
note. Third time.
Third time to do the intro.
Mhm.
Well, welcome everyone. It feels like it's been forever, but it really hasn't been.
It's been
only
1
been a
week.
week. It's been a week, but this has been like 3 weeks in one. So
The longest week ever.
it's been the longest week ever. But October is always like that. And we had we
It's
had
busy.
homecoming. Yeah, we had homecoming for the kids and
Mhm.
all kinds of things happening. So yeah, long week.
Busy week.
Busy week.
Yes, but we got through it and we did it.
Yes.
We survived.
Yeah.
And Amber's house is sickly, but
Yes.
that's okay.
We have a bug. Nothing well, I guess it is contagious because
It's
3 of
viral.
us are sick. It's viral, but there's not much we can do about it except
Mm-mm.
for just wear it out. So, and that's why my voice sounds like this, and I sound gruffer than even my usual gruff self. So, sorry about that.
Oh, well. Oh, well. Well, that's okay. We do have a Patreon shout out this week. Oh, did you want to say which episode this is?
I was just about to, but okay.
Okay. Do the
It's
episode.
episode 57, The Cobbites, a Murderous Cult.
Yes.
I read that really weird.
You did. Did you enjoy it though?
Yeah. It's not every time I get to say, hey, we're going to do an episode on a murderous cult.
I know. And I've been so excited because it feels fresh.
Yeah.
It
Well,
feels fresh.
it should. You were
But
out
it's
in the whatever earlier
Mhm.
today. I couldn't go because we're just not up
Sickly.
to. Yeah, we're sickly. You don't want this. So
Yeah.
so she went with a couple of historical
Just one.
cow pals.
One
Oh, just
Jessica.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Jessica with the White County Historical Society, which so yeah. So Jessica had to be Amby today. So
Yes.
but we missed you. So
Thank you.
I know we did. I'll talk about last night too, but later on in the episode. So that's okay. But we do have a Patreon shout out. So shout out to Rhonda O. She is our
Help me,
newest
Rhonda. Sorry.
Oh.
Help me, Rhonda.
I'm like,
She
what?
doesn't know where I was going
What?
with that. Come
No.
on, the Beach Boys. Oh my God.
That's before my time.
I had a Beach Boy tape.
It's before your
It
time.
is, but I had the whole greatest hits album on tape when I was 8 or 9 years old.
You would.
Yeah.
So yay. So thank you, Rhonda, for joining our Patreon. And we invite others to check out our Patreon. So yay. We are excited. So yeah. So this is like a fun one. I mean,
good.
It's a murderous cult, but
because those are so much fun.
But it is. It was a fun one. After we've had some heavy ones, so this feels fun.
Mine's not going to be heavy next week either. I'll just tell you that.
Good. It's going to be Halloweeny.
Yes, Halloweeny.
I felt like a cult was very Halloweeny.
Okay. We don't want to offend anyone out there in
a cult
presently.
I think we do. I think we do want to. If they're in a cult, we might want to. Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, were everybody just check out all the cult docu-films. And please, if anybody asks you to give them all your money and then have sex with you, then maybe just don't do that. Oh, and by the way, this is your preemptive. listener discretion. So this one does, it is a fun one, but it does have some things that are for a mature audience. Anywho, just listening discretion advised. I would say 13 and up. I don't know. That's up to you people, but just FYI, it has some
Adult
things.
themes. And
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
just has
even
some things.
sure what you're about to say, so
I
I'm a little
know.
scared for myself. But what I was going to say, I
uh
was going to say that y'all need to check out the book Cultish,
Cultish.
Cultish by Amanda Montell. It's one of my favorite books on cults, and it talks about, different types of cults, and we won't
Mm.
go into that because I don't want to hack off anybody that might be in something a little cultish and they don't realize it. But this is a I don't want to hack off anyone, but that's a great book. It just really opened my eyes about how cults work and things like that. So, and I spent a lot of time, watching and reading things about that Nexus cult. Oh my
Nexus.
gosh,
Yeah.
that was insane.
Yeah, you've got, of course, the old timey ones like Jim Jones, and you got the Nexus, and then you've got that, oh gosh, the Twin Flames going on,
Oh, I
and
forgot about that one too.
oh, you've got the dance one where they're dancers and they're involved in a
Oh yeah, I've
cult.
seen that one. And then
There's
the
yeah,
poor lady
yes,
that was like blue and wrapped up and
oh,
dead in a trailer park or
is
something.
that
That was so
that
awful.
yeah, that one's on HBO. What was it called? Love something, Love Conquers.
I
I
don't
don't know.
remember.
She said that she was like, she claimed to be God. And that's
Yeah.
another thing, stay away from people claiming certain things. But anywho, so this,
I claim to be Stevie Nicks sometimes, and I'm just kidding.
you wish. You
Yeah,
wish,
I know.
girl.
I know.
So, but we'll dive into this cult. We're going to take you back because this might be the original cult, like right here. Right here, people. Okay, so I mean, we're
Oh
talking
god.
we're talking 1876. Okay. So in 1876, we're diving in a small rural area 3 miles kind of south of Searcy, Arkansas. So this is our backyard,
It
literally.
literally is my backyard. That's what's so
I
sad.
know.
Y'all were a mile behind my house and I couldn't
Mhm.
join you today.
Yeah, I was like, get in the car and pop Max and you're like, nah. Anyway, but a man came to town. He walked into town, I guess, and he turned some simple farming people into killers.
Oh, fun.
Dun dun dun.
Ugh.
Yes. So we're gonna go back. So some background. So this is the 1870s, okay,
Mhm.
in Searcy. This is pre, phones. This is
Pre-phones.
pre-cars. There are no cars, there are no phones, there's no Netflix, I mean, this is rural. This is like
Rural.
pioneer, frontier, yeah, rural,
Say, say rural again for me. Say
rural,
it. Rural.
rural.
Now say rural juror.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But I mean, this is old. And Searcy at that time was a very small town. So Searcy proper, let's say, was only 880 people. Okay, right now it's 24,000. So to give you
Mhm.
some perspective, Searcy actually had begun, and we've kind of done some history, so this is going to be very brief. But Searcy began in the 1820s and as a spa resort town, and it was actually called the White Sulphur Springs. So that was the name of Searcy. But in the 1870s, so 50 years later, the town has actually experienced a small revitalization of being a spa town and a resort town. So it's kind of revitalized, okay? So it kind of was, it's kind of gone through some changes through the years. But economy wise, the majority of the people were farmers, okay? They lived in the outskirts of town. The farming was cotton, it was timber, and it was strawberries, okay? This was just huge in those three things. And in order to get around, you did have the railroad connection. So railroad existed in this time period, but it was mainly horse and buggy. Horse and buggy. Okay. Let that sink in. I mean, I can't imagine. It's really hard to imagine this. Like dirt roads, you know, all the things I hate. Dirt, horses.
Oh gosh.
I don't love horse riding. Anyway,
I do.
I don't. So
I grew up with horses.
it's not my thing. I mean, they're cute from far away. I don't want to be on one, and I don't want to be in a horse and buggy. So in 1876, when this situation was happening, so Cersei and the area, the community was kind of had a low morale. So it had been a really hard crop season due to drought. Okay. So this kind of sets the scene perfectly for a vagrant to come take advantage of these poor farming people. Okay.
Sounds like
So
the beginning of a movie.
it does. So, really, probably in the spring of 1876, a charismatic gentleman from Tennessee. Now, some places said Tennessee, some places said Indiana, but he rolled into White County and going solely by the name Reverend Cobb. Okay.
Oh, okay.
No records indicating first names or anything like that. Okay. So he was kind of sashaying his way through the White County area preaching. He was very fiery. Okay. He was one of those. He called himself a quote unquote walking preacher. And
Hmm.
this will come into play later. So remember this. But he also, this was because he kind of walked. That's kind of, he meandered, from place to place. I guess he didn't have a horse and buggy. Nowhere indicated that. So he was
Hmm.
just walking, he was preaching, he was traveling. And he would kind of hit the White County area hard. Okay. He hit the scene and he would hold,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You're saying okay. You remind me
And
of
he
South Park.
You're so crazy. That's funny though. But he was hitting the scene and he would hold these 2 week revivals, like tent revivals that you always hear about that,
I've been to a tent revival.
like, oh brother, art thou
Yeah, one
stuff.
just like that actually.
No air conditioning, people fanning
Yes.
themselves. It looks terrible. So
Those still happen.
I enjoy my revivaling in the air conditioning. But anyway, so he came in and he was preaching just a fiery message. He was trying to save all the sinners and, save their souls. And he was kind of foretelling of like what was coming was really, he was saying the end of the world, like was
Mm.
close. So he was one of those, like he was preaching into the world situations and wanting to just curb some sinning, okay, in the White County area. So,
Curb some sinning.
yes, he's trying to curb it out. So, because of the low morale and the struggles that were going on in the area, there were many that converted to his teachings. Okay. And he was a charismatic little figure. So, I'm going to tell you so I did a lot of research. So, this is from the research perspective. And then I'm going at the end to go a little backwards. We're going to do from the historicals from Jessica's so some things that she input. Okay. So this is where we're going. But okay. So as Cobb's following grew, another preacher named Dover. So this guy's last name was Dover, the Dover family. He lived in what is now the Gum Springs Road area. Okay. And that is about 3 miles south of downtown Searcy. And Dover, again, who was a preacher, he was converted to this Cobtism. Okay. That's what it is. So he became a Cobbite. So he, along with his grown sons and daughters and their families, they became very devoted to Cobb and allowed Cobb to basically, live with him, take over his home, okay? And it said there was another family involved, which we'll get into later, another family named Nelson. So, really, the Nelsons and the Dovers, but we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. So, they set up camp on the Dover farm place, which was described as about 100 acres or so, and it had a 2-story log home on it. Okay. This will be important too. So, as Cobb became more and more popular, he began to show some kind of interesting teaching. So very loose Bible stuff, but mainly his own selfish interpretations or likings were pretty apparent.
No, no
I know.
way.
I mean, cult leaders don't do that, right? So he claimed to be God. So he was claiming to be God himself or the Son of God. So Jesus Christ. Does this sound familiar? Like David Koresh, maybe?
Yeah, it sounds like a few of them. Yeah.
So definitely 100 years later in the future, people would be doing the same thing. So he believed he could perform the works of God. And he would utilize, it said, a sycamore pole, and he would command the sun to rise every day. And then doing the same thing in the evening, he would command it to set. So that
Well,
was
that's fancy.
So he was trying to signify to his followers that the sun rose and set with his command only. Like he took care of it. I mean, seriously. I mean, had they not seen a sunrise and set before he came along? I'm sorry. I'm just like such a cynic. I would have been like, no. Anywho, so that was one of the things that he did. So, like any other true man of God would do, not, is preach to his new followers that the best way to be sanctified and show their faith to him was to allow him to have intercourse with their wives. Because,
Yuck.
so here's the deal. So, he said that basically he could sanctify the women, and then the women had to pass that on to the men, their
There's other
husbands.
things that could probably be passed from person to person too.
I'm thinking a whole lot was passed along in this situation. And again, this sounds like a certain David Koresh in Waco in the 90s.
Too bad
So,
antibiotics weren't invented at that
oh my
time.
goodness. No, they were not. Yeah. People can learn all about that in our what's his name? Oh, our Al Capone episode. Yes, syphilis. So this is very cult leader like, but don't worry, if a man is single, all he had to do was find a willing young woman to be like called on to be sanctified by Cobb, and then she could sanctify the young single man.
So they were just bringing him women?
Yes, for sanctification
Oh,
purposes,
that's
Amber.
gross. Oh my gosh, that's
I
gross.
mean, that was super generous of Cobb to do, right? Right. I mean, really.
I can't
So
believe that this actually happened down the street from my house.
this is
That's
mind blowing
crazy.
in the 1870s, no less.
Yeah.
So it sounds super convenient for Cobb that the
I
whole
don't know. People have
congregation.
always been a little
Mm,
shady and dark and bizarre. We just,
yes,
people
they
it's
have.
it's harder to hide it now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, with digital forensics.
Yeah.
So, luckily. But yeah, I mean, it was just pretty convenient for Cobb that he could just justify the whole congregation like swinging, you know, and sanctifying.
It's like a 70s swinging party. Did he have
Hmm.
like a fishbowl with the wagon keys in it? Sorry.
You're not talking from experience, right? Amber's like, I wasn't even born in the 70s. Oh, goodness. Okay. What about the 1870s? So, I mean, the other thing that I'm thinking of, so I'm really sure that all these women were of age. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, what is the average age
Let's give
of the
let's give Cobb a
1870s?
medal then.
Hmm.
Oh
I'm
my god.
like, yeah, I
That's
have a feeling that a lot of these women weren't
and
even women.
what
They
did
were
they call
teenagers.
yeah, that's what I'm fixing. That's
Ugh.
what I was gonna say. What were they calling adults back then?
Yeah, probably. I mean, because they were probably getting married at 14
Well, and this sounds
and
gross.
15.
I know this sounds gross, but my great grandmother did get married at
Yes.
14.
I
Yeah,
think
so
my dad's mom got married very young, and it was like an arranged marriage in Italy, evidently. So, I mean, it happened. So I have a feeling that these children or teens were the sanctifying women of Cobb. This is just gross. But anyway, I mean, this is absolutely horrendous, but they were trying to save men's souls. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
this was in an effort to make God
Yeah, I
happy.
mean, I have no argument that men's souls need saving, but that is not the way.
But according to Reverend Cobb, that was the way. And evidently the these families went in this direction. So for whatever reason, they were in a situation and they were following all this.
Well,
So
you may be covering this in a minute, but I just have to
ugh,
know, did he have any children out of all this swinging?
it did not mention any children. So
Well, thank goodness.
I know, I have no idea. I like in my head, I'm thinking, this is interesting. Surely some Cobbites were happening. Cobbites.
Well,
Anyway, ugh,
maybe they
I
just
don't know.
didn't maybe they didn't
I
know who the father was, and maybe we have some descendants of old Reverend Cobb
oh,
still
I'm
lurking
sure.
among us in White County.
I will get into that, but and I will say this happened in a very small time frame. So if there was any impregnation going on, maybe I mean it wasn't probably like right away or even yeah, they could probably be like, "Oh, it's my husband." Anywho, who knows what they said, but yeah, very tight window for all this because luckily Cobb was so crazy it was a short window. But okay, so another form of proving their faith and in an effort to test or show their so-called sanctification, the Cobbites would climb on the roof of the two-story home, which had basically become a communal living situation for everyone, okay? And they would get on the very top and walk toe to heel from one end of the home to the other without falling. That was the point of it. But that wasn't enough proof, okay? That wasn't enough just to walk it. They needed to perform this act of roof walking with their eyes closed.
Good grief.
I mean, seriously.
What? What? What in the world?
I know. Like, yeah, there are no words. I'm like, really? Really,
I can
dude?
just see like them up there like like one of those tightrope
Like that.
walkers. Yes, at the
uh,
top of a log cabin. Oh my God.
hmm
That's the sight right there. That's a sight.
Yes. I mean, and really, so it said as long as they could make it blindly to the ends without falling, then of course they're faithful and
So
sanctified.
what happened if they didn't?
I don't know. None of this discussed what happened to the ones that fell because I cannot even imagine the ones that did not make it. I mean,
I
there had to
can't
have been
I can't
some people
walk
falling
in
off the roof.
Yeah, I mean, I can't walk in the dark from my bed to my bathroom without falling. So I don't think everybody made it.
I do. I mean, there's no way. So, I mean, the odds are in favor of someone falling. Like if there was quite a bit of people that were doing this, but evidently this was like there were witnesses to this.
You
Like
know,
that
part
was,
of me is like these poor dudes, they're breaking their legs, they're having to, give their wives away and then I'm like, they did this to
they they
themselves.
walked right into this.
Yeah.
And this was an example, he was why he called himself the walking preacher. So this was one of the things. But
Did
they
he
would
ever walk the line up
Oh
there?
no, he wasn't walking anywhere. He was just pointing his little sycamore pole at them, being like, "Walk and close your eyes." Good luck. Good luck. That's terrible. I'll be back with your wife. That's probably what he was doing. So, over the course of kind of weeks and a few months, so the Cobb followers couldn't just leave this alone. They couldn't just blindly allow Cobb to sleep with all their women and walk around sightless on the roofs, but they really wanted to show more true devotion, okay? So they decided to completely trash the house. Okay. They decided since the world was ending soon
Oh,
that,
oh, you skipped that part. I didn't know
okay.
that. The
Well, yeah.
world was ending.
Well, that was, remember, he came to town. That was one of the things he was saying. The world is ending soon.
Oh,
Like,
okay. Okay.
yeah.
I missed
So,
that part.
yeah, he pending doom. Okay. So
I
he
got you.
is
Pending doom. I'm with you.
he is God pending doom. So because the world's ending, so they just decided they'd strip out all the furniture, okay, in the house. This
I thought you were going to
Gopher's
say they
house.
were going to strip. Good God,
That's a total
1870s.
that's a totally different story. That's what they do during their sanctification.
God.
But yeah, so they strip out all the furniture and they pile it in the middle of the front yard, okay? And then they took all their sheets and blankets and pillows and they set fire to all of it, you know? I mean, they're like, we don't need these worldly possessions. The world's ending soon. We're that faithful. Like they were showing their true devotion by sleeping on bare floors. And it says that some of them would go on to sleep on the roof. I mean, they might as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're walking up there blindly. So why not? I mean, this is insane. It's insane. Like there are no words. So okay, so after they were completely without their comforts and possessions or virginity and all wits, like they completely lost their minds. So they decided to go one step further in their sanctification, okay? So, yes. So they decided to set a date on the calendar, like to decide on a date, and they were going to kill all their pets.
Oh
I know. Yeah.
no.
No, they
Oh,
don't
no,
need
no, no.
they
You
don't
should
need
have
them.
warned me about
Sorry.
that.
And the trigger warning for because I'm a pet lover. This is just this crazy. So that date that they set arrived, and sure enough, they did just that. They killed all their dogs and cats.
Oh no. Oh no.
I
Let's not get
why?
into
Like
that.
why?
Yeah.
And
Oh.
then they tore apart like all their fencing. So they would take down the fencing. So then all of the livestock could just roam around at will.
I
Just
mean,
roam.
these people act like they were like had rabies or something. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what in the world was wrong with them?
I mean, this was crazy. And I have no idea who came up with all these brilliant plans. If it was, Cobb being like, oh, this sounds like a great idea. Who knows? But this is getting wild. But they were just sick. I mean, this is sick and horrible. Those poor cats and dogs. But anyway, so extremely weirdo vibes. Okay. So along the lines of that, the church services were said to get wild. Okay. Just wild. So they would
Now,
hold.
did they? Oh, go ahead. I
Oh,
think you're about to say what I'm going to ask.
okay. So they were holding the church services in the
Yep.
home,
Okay.
like
That's
in
what I
the
was going to
log home.
ask.
And according to a news article, the scene was like men, women, and children shouting, screaming during the service. They would clap and get all crazy, which that is not unusual, clapping, but and praying, but they would literally get crazy until they dropped down in complete exhaustion. So they would just scream and shout and just live it up until they crashed. Okay. So, and I'm sure they didn't stay hydrated. I mean, this is the 1870s. They probably didn't have their Stanley Cups,
Yeah.
but yes. And this was the summer. So, this would be in the summer months of Arkansas without electricity, without air conditioning, hanging out in this log cabin. You
Oh,
threw
that
your
sounds
stuff in the, I
miserable.
know, you threw your stuff in the front yard. I mean, this sounds like camping's really ugly sister in cult fashion. I mean, I don't even want to think about this. I like Arkansas summers are
Brutal.
horrible. Yes,
Yeah.
horrible.
August is brutal. I mean, July gets brutal, but August is brutal.
It's like it was still warm today. I mean,
Yeah.
tomorrow is supposed to be luxuriously cool. I can't wait. But yeah, so this was crazy. So I've told you a lot of crazy things, okay? But if this wasn't enough, now, so other things that were going on, so they began setting up along this main road. So, according to everything that we're reading, so if this wasn't enough, the Cobbites began setting up at the main road, okay? So, like, I
Now, when
guess
you
that,
say the main road, I mean, I know for everybody listening, they're not from Cersei, they don't know, but I want
yes.
to know exactly
Oh, I was
what
going to
where you're
describe
talking about.
this.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now we think of the main road as like Highway 267.
267. Yes. And that's like,
But
that's how you get to my house.
yes, but from what me and Jessica demise, it has to be Gum Springs Road. So there is an actual Gum Springs Road that
Right
runs.
by the cemetery.
Yes, that was probably the main road, and then the highway was built later. And it was
Oh, okay.
literally probably just a pig trail. But that church out there, that Gum Springs church that's
The tiny
there,
one. Yeah.
yes, on
Yeah.
Gum Springs Road, that has been there since the 1850s. So
Hmm.
that made sense that Gum Springs was the main road because the
Mm-hmm.
Cobbite branch out there is on Frontier Road, which tees into Gum Springs. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's hard. I mean, a lot of records, so records in that time period, it's just hard to come by those things unless they were actually kept and scanned. A lot of records got lost. So,
right.
to have actual records is very difficult. And we've kind of gone into this before, but yeah. So, Gum Springs Road
Yeah,
was probably the original road.
we had a
Original.
fire like when our fire department burned down.
Oh,
What we
yeah.
how long ago was
Well,
that?
that was
18
in,
years ago.
yeah, that was in the early, like 2005, 2004, somewhere in
Were
there.
there were records that were lost during that whole thing because there was
But
county
they had,
offices above it, right?
yeah, and they had fires way back when at like even the courthouse back in the day. So there,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so there was some old timey fires. So a lot of documents just have gotten,
No, that's so
lost
sad.
around.
I
It
hate
is
that.
sad. It is very sad. So yeah, so that would have been the main road. So the Cobbites, they were setting up along that main road that ran into Cersei. So that was the road that people were traveling, on. So they were allegedly grabbing up the reins of travelers, like their horses, and pleading with them to attend their services, like screaming at them to come in and get saved, okay? And then some sources say they were literally like taking them, like making them go. So yeah, so forcibly making passersby go into the home and pray with them and essentially holding them captive. Like,
Oh my gosh.
yes. So that was happening. So you have these, okay, so let's imagine this. This is before Facebook. This is before party lines. Like, these people were bored. There were rampant rumors about these cop people. I mean, this was getting around. And I will say this road, I'll kind of get into this in a minute, but I mean, this is 2 to 3 miles outside of town. So
Right.
just think about that too. We're gonna talk about that. So big time gossip is getting around, okay? This is
Mhm.
filtering in. People are witnessing this and they are talking this up. This was probably super big news. It was probably like, look at all this cotton. And then have you heard about the crazy cops? Like this was crazy. So this is all culminating to a big event, okay? So on Tuesday, August 29th, of 1876, a very popular local bartender in Cersei, and I'm going to say it because a lot of people are going to be making that face that you just made, bartender. So
We
Cersei,
had a bartender.
we
bef-
surely did. We surely did. So
We have them now, don't get me wrong, but for a long time there was
we didn't. Yeah.
yeah, for a
Like a
long time we didn't.
So, and we're going to discuss this right now because, okay, so interesting fact for people, and we've mentioned it before, but White County is a dry county. We are dry. There are certain counties in Arkansas that are dry. And what that means is if people like we don't have liquor stores, we don't have that. Now we do have restaurants that have liquor license and we do have clubs that have liquor license. So, but we do not have liquor store. We are still a dry county. So this happened. So in the 1870s, like we really like if you go back to our first episode, the Galloway Gertie, we kind of talk about how the town of Cersei voted to become dry, and that was kind of a big deal to get the Galloway like women's college established, like proving that we were a good place. And so you're going into, prohibition times don't enter until the 1920s. And obviously that didn't work, but really there was a lot of anxiety about drinking because there were lots of alcoholism problems in the family. So, anywho, at that time in the 1870s, liquor was not a deal, and we did have bars and such in Searcy, and it was wet at that time. I don't even know if they knew if they even had counties that were wet, dry, or whatever. It was just
Right.
allowed. So, very weird. So, it was a local bartender, and his name was Carter Humphreys. And he had a little friend with him named Rufus Blake. And they had heard all these terrible stories about these Cobbites and everything happening. So they decided to take it upon themselves to go out to the Cobbite ranch, formerly the Dover's place. And evidently it was also called the Old Patterson place. Evidently
Mm.
there was some people there. The Pattersons owned it maybe before the Dovers. But kind of a side note, yes, it probably took them, they were in a horse and buggy or on horses. This would have taken them about 40 to 50 minutes to get there from town.
Hmm.
Okay. So this was not a quick thing in the horse and buggy times. But so they decided to go out there. So some articles state that the men, these two were not armed, but it said that Blake had a hunting knife on him. That's all he had. And many sources cover this event with a lot of differing items. So I'm just going to kind of read to you some of them, but I will say one source said the Cobbites already knew of Humphreys. And because of his profession with alcohol, the Cobbites considered him Satan's coworker, quote unquote.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's a
And all the
bartender.
craziness they're doing
I
over there
know.
is just fine.
Yeah,
Just fine.
they are completely normal and fine with that. So, but he's Satan's coworker. So, and another item said that the men approached the home and several of the Cobbite women kind of met them on the road and screamed for them to come into the house and see God. And Humphreys fired back kind of sarcastically that he had not seen the old man in some time. So I'm going to actually read to you some articles. So one article is from the BB Magnet that was shared by the Fayetteville Weekly. And then it's very interesting. So I'm going to kind of give you this little tidbit, okay?
Okay.
This is something. So hold on to your little britches, okay?
I
This says
haven't worn little britches in about 30 years or
you have
25 years.
little tiny legs.
Yeah.
You have little tiny britches. Okay, so so I got to put on my glasses for this. So this is from this article. One of the most horrible affairs of which we have ever read occurred in White County in this state of Arkansas on the evening of the 29th. The particulars of which we find in the Little Rock Gazette. So they put it in the Gazette. There is a sect, they call them a sect, known in the county by the name of Cobbites, the leader of which, a man by the name of Cobb, proclaims himself as Christ. They are guilty of the most disgusting practices, setting at defiance all law and decency. On the evening mentioned, two young men from Searcy, named respectively, they call them Cart Humphreys and Blake, went out to one of their meetings about 3 miles from Searcy. And when they arrived, they were set upon by four men holding each of them. Blake made his escape and went back to town where a posse gathered and went back to secure Humphreys. But when they got there, Humphreys' head had been severed from his body.
No. Oh,
I'm
gosh.
not even joking. This
Oh,
goes
my
on.
God. And this is my true reaction, y'all, because I didn't ask any questions about any of this. Oh, my gosh.
I'm not laughing
Seriously?
about a severed head, but
No, no, but
seriously.
my gosh.
Oh,
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh,
I'm serious. They got there, and Humphrey's head had been severed from his body and was sticking upon a paling at the
no
gate.
way. No way. Oh,
Yes,
my
way.
gosh.
Yes, way. His body horribly mutilated. This is in the paper. Horribly mutilated, lying about 8 or 10 yards from it. The posse surrounded the house and ordered the inmates to come out and surrender. But instead, they came out of the house shooting. Their leader telling them to take the guns away from the posse, and he would cut their heads off while alive.
Oh my
Ugh. They
gosh.
were ordered to halt, but continuing to advance, the party from town fired upon them, killing two of them outright and dangerously wounding another. The others were surrounded and taken prisoners and conveyed to the jail at Circe. According to this, it says there were four women, two girls, two boys between the ages of 14 and 17, and then
Oh
two
gosh.
babies that they took to the jail. The affair created great excitement, and it was with difficulty that the good people could be restrained from mobbing the fiends. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So that is one article. Yes. And I'm not going to go into this other one. I will post it. It went into some more detail, kind of the same things. Just basically, it says here that Humphrey was beaten and stabbed, and his head was severed from his body with an old, it says, meat axe, and stuck the head upon a paling of the fence, dancing and yelling around it like demons.
Oh my
So
gosh.
this one, yeah, it
What was his
gets
first what was his first name or his whole name? Because I want to see where he's
who?
buried. The Humphrey
Carter
guy.
Humphreys.
Carter Humphreys.
Carter Humphreys. So yes. So yes. So this is what happened. Okay, this I have more. I have more. So in this is
Wow.
from an article, I guess, in the Three Rivers.
I mean,
Are you
I am like I don't know what to say.
I mean, okay, I will say, I mean, this is a different time and place, but even in the 1870s, a severed head, like seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, this is like Henry VIII days. I mean, this is like the
Yeah.
1600s, medieval stuff going on. I mean, this is insane, insane. Um, this little insert from this is from Three Rivers pages from 2007. So it says, this is terrible. After kicking the head around in the dirt for a while, it is said that the Cobbites ceremoniously carried it to the front porch and stuck it on a fence picket facing the road so everyone could see what happened to the imp of Satan, quote unquote.
Oh wow.
Blake, the partner of the unfortunate Humphreys, had managed to escape during the chaos and headed, like, he took his buggy and went back to Circe. So it does say, this article says, the folks in White County were generally easygoing, but this was ridiculous and they were not going to put up with this eccentric behavior. So they did go ahead and get the posse. So they rounded up, they rounded up the sheriff, any police, like people, and they went straight to the
It
Dover's
was a
farm.
posse. Yeah.
Oh, it was a posse that just okay. So the image in my head that comes up is like Beauty and the Beast when they went to get the beast, like that kind of
Yeah.
pot, like pitchforks and fire.
I was thinking
Anyway,
more of a Frankenstein posse, but go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead.
I went to Beauty and the Beast. So when the Cobbites, I guess what was said of this, it says that the Reverend Cobb had told the Cobbites that he would protect because he was the Son of God, because he was sanctified, that even if they shot, they would not, like, they wouldn't be fired on. He said that their guns would not work. And it is said in some of these cases that evidently when they got there, when the posse got there, they had guns. And it looked like some of their guns maybe misfired at first. So the Cobbites thought that Reverend Cobb was accurate, but then it turned out, of course, it was just a backfiring. And so other
Mhm.
people started to shoot, and then they got like all shot up. Like
Wow.
yeah. So it says that, the Cobbites ran onto the road. They found, that they were unarmed, but they ran into the shotgun posse. Much hysteria ensued in which the Cobbites screamed at the posse, daring them to shoot, proclaiming that God would protect them. As luck would have it, though, this says God must have had enough of the Cobbites, because the guns did indeed fire. The Reverend Dover, so the preacher Dover, he was killed instantly, as was one of his son-in-laws. And then all the survivors were taken to the Searcy jail, where they were crammed into cells, many including Dover's wife and some of them. So this was August, okay? So they were all jailed. So the actual trial, they did.
I bet it was hot in that jail.
Oh gosh, can you imagine? So it said that the actual trial didn't start until January. So there
Mm,
were a lot of them that did get sick and die in jail.
yeah.
Okay. There
Where do you
is,
know where the jail was at that time?
so Jessica was saying that the jail was, remember the original Cersei jail, like downtown?
Yeah, by our junior high school.
Yes, that's what she was thinking, which is no longer there now, but she was thinking that's where the jail was at that time, which would
Hmm.
make sense that it was downtown by the courthouse. I mean, because the
And it was
courthouse was
old.
there.
It was old, old.
Oh, it was old. And I don't know now, it may not have been what we saw may not have been the original, but it was there in that location or downtown in that location.
Mm.
Um, Speaking of old jails, remember the one in BB? If anyone
Oh
hasn't
yeah,
seen that, that is creepy.
yeah.
Okay, so this is actually there is now this is really interesting. So it says that there was a John Nielsen was a veteran of the Civil War and he had moved to White County. And he was just really like a well-liked man. So he had actually joined the Cobbites after Cobb kind of had told him things. So this is just a little Cobbite story, but so evidently Cobb had told him things about himself. So he was thinking Cobb was like clairvoyant, but really it was Cobb had already talked to this man's stepmom and gotten all the
Mm.
information. So he was kind of going around tricking people into thinking that he was, into trickery.
Right.
So it does say a Joseph W. House actually represented the Cobbites in court. And he was an outstanding lawyer in Searcy in the years 1869 to 1885. So he was their attorney. He also served as a state representative and a delegate to the 1874 Constitutional Convention.
When
He
he
is
wasn't defending cult members.
Yeah. And listen to this. Records show that his law firm was deeded 189.4 acres of land at Clay by the John Nelson and his wife Sarah for defending the Cobbites. And we'll
Oh,
get into
okay.
that. But William A. Monroe assisted someone Cody and McRae, and they were the prosecutors for the state. So the Cobbite men were actually tried first, and unfortunately, the legal records have I mean, there's no testimony from the trial. They just don't have the records, but they do state the verdict reached. It wasn't until July 28th. So we're talking a whole almost year later, but it did
Right.
say the jury find the defendants not guilty of the
What?
offense, as charged in the within indictment. The state
I mean, they
then
went total midsummer on these people. I mean,
well,
what?
well, what they decided, they went ahead. So they were trying the men first, but then they decided to drop the case against the women. They pretty much conceded that the people responsible for the killing was that preacher Dover. And so they kind of conceded that the persons responsible for actually killing Carter were the ones killed by the mob. So they
Oh,
kind of
okay.
were like, hey, we've jailed all these people for a year, but really the people that we killed already.
Hmm.
And none of those people that killed those people were arrested, by the way.
Hmm.
Hmm.
This
Let's
is
think on
crazy.
that.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yes, so they did say, so it does say, this was cute. As the years have passed, the memory of the Cobbites has faded into legend. Nothing remains of them in White County except a cemetery near Clay, and that is near Payneburn. We're going to talk about that. So that is said to contain the remains of at least one member. I believe her last name is Nelson. So the graves of other members are rumored to be there, but efforts to convince descendants of the group to come to White County and attempt to verify the grave sites have been unsuccessful. So this was written in 2007. So they actually tried to get people to come and, verify their ancestors, were there.
Hmm.
So another fun little Cobb story, and Jessica had told me some of these. So he was trying to show his, ability to be God and such, and that he could do all these things. So it is said that he would bury a man alive, promising to raise him the next day.
Oh
So
my
he was
gosh.
secretly inserting like a cane, some sort of rod, so that the guy could breathe, but
Hmm.
it kind of rained, and water
Oh
kind of.
no. Oh
So
my gosh.
the man died, and Cobb really just kind of was like, I can't really raise him. I mean, so I'm sure he blamed it on the man and
Oh
just,
my
he
gosh.
probably said that the man just wasn't sanctified. So Jessica, so this is Jessica, and she wrote around with me so much good information from Jessica, and I've got my note. So, okay. Okay. So we kind of discussed these little tidbits. Okay. So after everybody was dismissed, okay, the court did not find any of them guilty. The town required Reverend Cobb to leave the area. Like all the rest of the Cobbites and Cobb were required to leave. It was kind of like get out of White County, like go. So they
Right.
let them out of jail, they let them out of prison, and there was like go. So it said, and Jessica Clausen, she is a teacher and a history lover and a part of the White County Historical Society board and a big Cobbites fan. So she actually wrote her senior seminar paper on the Cobbites, and she grew up in that area. And her aunt Chloe Presley actually is notated in a lot of this information that I will have in the references with some of these stories. So she grew up with all of this Cobbites history and story. So she
Right.
told me
Right.
some interesting things. So yeah, so the Cobbites were told to leave. Okay, but it looks like they headed kind of north. It said that they headed north in direction of Bald Knob and then eventually made it to Missouri. So
Oh, okay.
yes. So Jessica has done a lot of research on this, and she has found that it looked like the Cobbite people may have settled in the northern Arkansas area, and it looked like there was even a marriage license between a Cobb and a Nelson, I believe, or maybe it was a Dover, a last name Dover, but it would have been like
One of
maybe.
them.
Yes, and she
Yeah.
said Cobb at that time, at the time that Cobb was doing these things in 1867, he was probably in his late 40s or 50s, like somewhere 40s or 50s age-wise.
Right.
And then later on, when she found this marriage license, like he would have been like 60-year-old man, maybe marrying like into the Dover family, like a young woman, okay, or
Gross.
young,
Gross.
yes,
Gross.
like he liked to do. So, anywho, this could be kind of, if we can find more information, it's just a matter of this could be like a more to come in the future type
Yeah.
situation as far as Cobb goes. But so when I met Jessica, and I will, okay, so last night after I knew we were doing this story. So after I got done with the dance, I had to do the homecoming dance. So I called Amber. Amber was on the phone, and I decided to go ahead and drive. It was dark, and I was like, I'm going to drive to this Cobbites, situation, because a lot of what I was finding was saying that people have seen ghost of these Cobbites out in this Gum Springs area. So I got on Pioneer Road, and Pioneer Road just kind of turns into Frontier Road. So I had Amber on the phone the whole time. I had my phone. I was in my car. I was doing a little loop. No big deal, people. But I will say it was super creepy and it was super dark. Um, During the day, that area is very pretty and whatever, but at night, it is super creepy. And I had my windows roll down. So I was just gonna roll up there and see if I could see any ghosts or, Cobbite people, maybe standing on some roofs or something,
Oh my gosh.
soliciting me to sanctify. No, thank you. But anyway, so I didn't see anything, and Amber stayed on the phone. So I basically just did a little loop, came back and hit 267 and was safe and sound at the Sonic within minutes.
Safe
Okay.
and sound at the Sonic.
Got myself a little, I got myself a little small milkshake. Okay. Chocolate. And so, anywho, so today, so Jessica, shout out to Jessica. She amazingly agreed to meet and show me some things.
She's
And
so nice. She's a sweetheart.
she is so nice. So we met Jessica, Shelly and Jessica are with the White County Historical Society, and they had invited us to do that event. It was like their, what was it? It was like their spring. It was like an event there. We did that back in April, right? Am I crazy? When
Mm,
was that?
I think it was this summer. I
June?
don't know. Yeah, something like that. I have
I
no
don't know.
idea.
We posted about it, but anyway, we talked to the with the White County Historical Society. That was super fun. So anyway, so we met them, and Jessica at that time had told me about her paper and her knowledge and stuff. So she did agree to kind of take me on a ride today, and we had a lot of fun. And I do have some footage that I'll be posting along with this episode tomorrow. But anyway, so the very first thing is actually, and this is none of the information that I found online said this, but Jessica said that actually, so Reverend Cobb originally landed in the area of Clay. So it's not even like a town, it's literally just a small community
Yeah,
outside of Pangburn.
my grandmother lived there for a while. So, when she
Yes.
was little.
I mean, it is just a tiny little dot. It's kind of like that Gum Springs, like back in the day, if you lived in that Gum Springs area that was south of Searcy, that was where you lived. Like, but now it's just all Searcy. I mean, even if it's out of town, it's like a Searcy address. But anyway, so he actually landed in Clay, and this is where the Nelsons live. So the Nelsons had a homestead in Clay. And so he started doing his thing in Clay, and the people of Pangburn in that area found out about all the weirdness going on. And they were like, you need to move on. They were, yeah, the people pretty much got together and were like, this is weird, move on. And so they literally had to move. So this would have been about 17 miles to get to the Gum Springs. And we've already talked about horse and buggy days. I mean, this is a deal. This probably took them a couple days to get all their stuff and all of them. I mean, and when we talk about the Cobbites following, so when we say that there was really just a couple families and there were other people involved, but these families were huge, like huge. And we're talking
Yeah.
big families, cousins, in-laws, all these people. So the Nelsons, all of them ended up landing. I guess they knew the Dovers, and of course the preacher Dover, he was a preacher. So they just moved this whole community of people to the Dovers situation. So that's how they actually got to the Gum Springs. They had actually been in Clay and went to the Gum Springs area. So that was something completely new to me. And I do have some recorded, I'll kind of add in some recording time of Jessica, visiting with me and such. We had such a fun time. We did drive out today. We drove out there during the day and we actually pulled up into somebody's, house, and we got out and talked to them for like 30 minutes.
Wow.
And this woman was so nice, but she literally kind of lives in that area where the house was. Okay. And it's right there on Frontier Road. So she was wonderful, gave us a look around. Like her house there was, the original house was built in like the 1930s. But anywho, she had lived there since late 90s, and she was so nice to us. But anyway, so we did meet the peoples of the Cobbites area. And I will kind of show you guys a pin, like you can put in, as Cobbite branch pops up, like you can drive out there. And I suggest you do it at night and then tell me all about it.
Something tells me
Be careful.
I didn't get out of this forever when I didn't go last night or today. Something tells me we'll be going back.
I have a feeling we're going to be going back. But it was very interesting. So Jessica and me did all this today. So we not only went to, she took me to Clay. So we went up to Clay to see all of that area where the Nelsons lived. And then we went to the Frontier Road, the Gum Springs area. So we looked at all that. Um, yeah, we're wild and crazy. We lived it up. So we got wild in the White County Historical Society way. Okay. So it was lots of fun, and she had a lot of useful information. So one of the stories, I'm going to actually have the clip in there, but little bit of a trigger warning on that story, but it was something about the Cobbs and a young woman. But anyway, it was just it wasn't in the notes that I found, but there's a lot of little stories. And of course, it's hard to know because it's not able to be, documented. It's hard to know what is truth and fiction. So all of these were
Right.
passed down, and a lot of this information comes from people doing the research 90 years after it happened. So yeah, but this one, it has all the things.
It does. I mean, when you first, told me, "Hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do the Cobbite story," I was like, "Oh, okay, a fun little kooky cult story." There's nothing fun about this. This is
Yeah.
insane. This is murder, and it sounds like bordering on sexual assault. Probably was
It
sexual
would
assault.
be. It
It
had to,
would be
yeah,
sexual assault because some of
today.
those, yeah,
Oh,
today,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Across the board, I think everybody would be arrested for, yeah, just the simple, what do you call that? Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. They were doing a lot of things.
I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie Midsummer?
Summer. I don't think so. Have I seen that? You've mentioned it, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's a cult movie, well, I mean, I say it's a cult movie. It's about the May festival or some festival in May in
Mm,
Europe. I don't know, something. I don't think this kind of stuff actually happens, but
mm.
it's about a little culty group of people out in the middle of nowhere, and it's freaky. So,
Did anybody's head come off?
there were some things, but we won't go into that. It's
Okay.
a horror movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A horror movie. So
Yeah.
everybody go watch that and tell us about it. So yeah. So I do I'm sure someone will correct us on a lot of things, so that's perfectly okay. And then also me and Jessica were thinking that the main road, back in the day was Gum Springs Road. So let us know if you know something, if you know on that.
Oh yeah, people love to correct. That's what I've noticed. I'm like, there's a teacher shortage. If you like to correct things, like,
Yeah.
there's lots of, teacher jobs where you can correct papers all
Mhm.
day.
There you
But I
go.
notice online everyone just loves to correct each other. So
I love it. Yeah, it's well, and especially if there's a mispronunciation, which I get. Affidavit.
I didn't know if you read that. I wasn't going to tell you that one. I was like, I'll
Oh,
just see if she reads that.
oh, I saw it. I don't care. I'm
Maybe we
like,
just want to make up our own words. No, I'm
I like to
kidding.
make up my own words. That's just, like epitome and
Yeah.
affidavit. So anyway, so this was a fun one. And it does have a lot of, grotesquerie. Uh-oh, in it. Oh. Can't say that word, can I? Grotesqueness.
No, Grotesquerie is a
It's
show
that's a
now.
show now with the
That's a
Travis
show.
Kelsey.
Yeah,
Don't
I've
even get me
seen
started.
I've seen most of the episodes. It's okay. I mean, it's not like something. I'll
Yeah.
tell you this. I started watching it from the beginning, and two more episodes came out Thursday, and I haven't even watched them yet. So
Oh,
that is how quickly I'm,
like
wanting
over
to.
it.
Yeah, that's how quickly I'm wanting to finish the series. New
Hmm.
episodes are coming out, and I'm not, in a
Are you
hurry.
not
No,
you're
I'm
not
gonna finish
enthralled?
it. Huh?
You're not enthralled?
No,
Yeah.
no. I just don't like it. Like I thought I was going to.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. So that's it. So I do want to plug oh gosh, we have an event Wednesday in Little Rock, and I believe the tickets are free, but I don't know if there's any seating available left, but me and Amber are going to be there. We're going to be posting. We're going to be in costumes. But please she gave me a look. Um She's so excited. Join our Patreon. You can email us at unexplainedarkansas@gmail.com and check out our website, which I never can remember. I think it's unexplainedarkansas.squarespace.com. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Yeah, and we're on all the things, so please find us and buy some merch. And we've got live show coming in February, and we're we have sold several tickets. We have sold many, many tickets actually. But we do hope to sell out by December. So just make sure to contact us for live show tickets. And that's all I had. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff for Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. All righty.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
it. That's
yay.
all we have. All right. So everybody have a spooky week before Halloween.
Yeah.
Wait, we've got 2 weeks, don't we? Whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever.
whatever.
Have some fun at pre-Halloween
Yeah,
times.
watch all the scary
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
So
They're all out now.
eat
So
all the candies.
yeah. All right.
All
We'll
right.
talk to you later. All right.
Love ya.
Love ya.
Bye.
Yeah, why do you know so much?
Okay, so I did my senior seminar paper on the Cobbites. I'm from the area.
Okay.
So I got my degree in history at UCA,
Awesome.
my bachelor's, and did my master's later. But at UCA. And so it was just always something. So when I was a kid, my employee used to tell me the story of the Cobbites.
Ooh.
Because she's like one of the the White County Historical Society founders,
Oh.
did all the things. Right?
And what's her name?
My Aunt Chloe.
Oh,
Okay. Presley. She passed away when
I've
I was
seen
in high school.
Okay, I've seen her name on some things.
Yes, she was
Okay,
kind of like the Cobbite person. She knew the most about them.
That's cool.
And it's because my mom's side of the family's Arkansas, because the Cobbites, they all leave after the murder takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And
like after the trials.
After the trials and everything, and they're being held. Now, the jail they were held in is not standing up anymore either.
Okay, because they were in. Was it Cersei that
yes,
they were in the jail?
They're
okay.
held here in Cersei.
Okay. Was it where the old jail used to be?
Yes.
Okay. So that was here in the late 1800s? I'm just wondering. Okay.
Interesting. Now, the courthouse,
because that was there, right?
Yes, is already there. And they, kind of Cersei, because this story, there's papers in New Zealand covering the Cobbites. It's like international news. This cult that results in this murder, and then, there's a story that one of them, that there's a girl that was not starting her period, and so Reverend Cobb takes her and to try to get her to start her period. It's very graphic.
Oh my goodness.
Supposedly, he has to sanctify the wives.
Mm-hmm. And sanctify them, right?
Sanctify is used, interesting,
like this is so before, like 100 years before David Koresh, but it's like I wonder if he knew about Reverend Cobb.
It's very, it's just wild. There's so much to the story. And eventually, of course, so the story is that when they really start taking people off in the Clay area, as well as right outside Cersei, is when they would pull, we're riding around in our buggies, and they're like, come inside, come pray with us, and they're pulling people out of their buggies, and they're
just making them come inside.
They're also letting their animals roam free, like it's free range grazing, which of course that's not going to make people happy. They take all the fence posts down, they take all of the fencing down. They keep the fence posts because we know that the head is put on a fence post. Oh. And we also know that it's the women that probably committed the crime.
Okay, so not the men.
Now, what winds up happening is that there's just this crazy Cobbites. They're out there pulling people off, come pray with us, and and they're all following this Cobb guy, and then so this bartender. Right, this is what really kind of
And this is the Carter Humphreys.
Yes, Humphreys. And Rufus Blake is his buddy. Okay, and they're coming out there, and there's a local bartender, because this is Cersei in the 1800s.
And at that time, they can drink.
Yes, this is not the Cersei of today.
Yes.
And so local bartender and his buddy are like, oh, we're going to go, teach these guys a lesson. And the women, are like, we've got to get ready with us. And so they're like pulling them in. One of them, like, and they're like, you're great. They basically get into an altercation. And before you know it, it's off. And the poor guy's head is cut off and stuck up on a post. And then the other guy with him, his buddy,
which is awful. Can you imagine witnessing such? I mean, I can't. That's just,
it's too much. It's
yeah.
wow.